the Start Your Own Business podcast. Hear inspiring startup stories and get reliable expert advice on how to start your business and get off to the best possible start. Brought to you by Startup Donut, helping small businesses succeed.
Hi there, thanks for joining us. You're listening to the Start Your Own Business podcast. My name's Fiona Pryor and I'm your host. In this episode of the Start Your Own Business podcast, I'll be speaking to Ruth Sparkes, founders of Nordhuset, a fabulous brand that designs and sells utterly lovely products, including posters, wall art, greetings cards and other items, mainly online but offline too. So why did Ruth start her business? What key tips does she offer? And what role did COVID and Norway play in the formation of her business? I also want to find out about the benefits print on demand offers Ruth and her business, and what advice she offers on how you can make print on demand work for your business too. Before we meet Ruth, let's hear from Gelato, the sponsor of this special Startup Story episode of the Start Your Own Business podcast.
Ever dreamt of starting your own business but not sure where to begin? Gelato makes starting a business easier than ever. Bring your creative ideas to life with print-on-demand products, from wall art and posters to cards, calendars and apparel. And with one-click integrations for popular platforms like Etsy, Shopify, Wix and TikTok Shop, Gelato helps you reach customers wherever they are. With more than 130 print partners in over 30 countries, Gelato lets you produce locally and sell globally, allowing you to scale your business worldwide from day one. It also means zero inventory, lower risk and endless possibilities. So if you're ready to start your entrepreneurial journey, sign up to Gelato for your 30-day free trial and get 50% off first orders within 48 hours of signing up at try.gelato.com/donut and see how simple it can be to turn your passion into profit.
It's now time to meet our guest, Ruth Sparkes, founder of Nordhuset. Hi there, Ruth. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to speak with you.
Before we talk about Nordhuset, I wanted to ask you about your background and what you were doing before you started the company.
For years, I've been working in PR and marketing in education with schools and further education colleges as well as universities. So that's what I was doing, and I'm still doing that now. But I started Nordhuset when I moved to Norway and got stuck here during lockdown.
So you had some background in marketing and PR, is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know that this isn't your only business, is it? You've got some other businesses going as well. I wonder if you could tell us a bit about those.
Yeah, so I have Empro, which is the PR and marketing company. That's still going. And I also recently launched a new business called Safer Space, which is an app that people can use to report sexual harassment or discrimination in the workplace or on a college campus.
So you're busy, and it sounds to me like you're quite an entrepreneurial person by nature. Have you got a kind of family background of business, people running businesses?
My mother, she had her own business years ago. She was a hairdresser and she had her own hairdressing salon. So I think it's probably come from that. Plus, I actually think I might be unemployable. So, you've got to cut your cloth according, I think.
Yes. So Nordhuset is a Norwegian word, and you've already said that you're based in Norway. What does that word mean, and why did you come up with that for your business name?
Well, I wanted a Norwegian word, and when I started the business, it wasn't going to be posters, to be absolutely honest. And I felt in Norwegian, or in it's Bokmål Norwegian, the word means the North House. And obviously I am living quite far north. So I thought it sort of encapsulated, things that were from the north, but also something that you would have in your home.
Okay, so you've touched very briefly on the fact that you've mentioned posters, but that's not the only thing you sell. Obviously, there's wall art, there's greeting cards. What inspired the idea?
Well, Actually, the company that I work with from my printing, Gelato, I came across them by accident. So we just moved out to Oslo, and I was looking for, posters to fill a blank walls. And I found a company, I cannot remember the company's name, but they were producing posters. And the postal system in Norway is not the same as it is in the UK. It's quite frustrating. But, there didn't seem to be a problem to get these posters to Norway. So I thought, that's fabulous. And they arrived very quickly, which is really unusual for Norway as well. So I thought, that's really interesting. How I think the company was a Danish company. And I was really intrigued as to how they could deliver something within a couple of days, because my sister was sending me all sorts from the UK that were taking, 2 and 3 weeks to arrive. And one fleece that she sent me never did ever arrive, which was, about 5 years ago now, and we still haven't received it. But so I was intrigued by this, that how could they do this? So, and on the back of the poster, there was a bit of a watermark that said gelato. So from then, I researched what gelato was and how it worked, because I didn't even know about print on demand at that point. I didn't know there was such a service.
So really, you came across the company for personal use rather than for the business.
Yeah, that's right.
With the idea of starting your own business.
Absolutely.
So that's where the company idea came from.
To use gelato, definitely. Yeah. And I think, as seeds are sown in your head, so that was always at the back of my mind, that, there was a company, this was such a thing, this was such a service. And then, because that was in the early days of living in Norway. And then as you live here and you want to take gifts back, I found that there wasn't the sort of thing that I quite like to buy. I do like art, I do like wall art, I do like posters, because you can change them quite regularly as well when you get a bit bored. You couldn't really get this kind of thing in Norway, because it probably isn't a Norwegian thing, but it's definitely something that, as Brits or as Americans, we like to take home. I mean, every time I go to the south of France on holiday, or if I go to America, I'd love to get a poster to bring back. It's just a travel thing that I like to do. So I thought, well, I definitely think that they would work here.
So you started the business back in early 2022, I think?
Yes, that's, it might have been a bit earlier than that. But yes, it was around, we were in COVID, and we were just stuck, because, so it must have been a bit earlier.
So COVID had an impact on you starting the business?
Yeah, so because I was flying in and flying out, and then all of a sudden, when COVID hit, Norway shut down. It shut down immediately. So I couldn't get home like I was doing, and so everything had to. And obviously, business has changed. Being marketing and PR, especially working in education, children weren't going to schools, people weren't going to university. So my business changed, and I'm not very good at not doing anything. I can't sit still for very long, and my brain is not a quiet brain. So I had to do something really. And so then because in my previous life, or actually it's not previous, it's still happening. I could build websites, I could use Photoshop, I could use these things. I was spending obviously more time on my own, and teaching myself things that I didn't know that I didn't know, and developed the product from there, really.
I suppose this is a good point for you to tell us a little bit about your products. So for anyone who doesn't know the company, can you tell us a little bit about the products and how the process of the designs work? Because the designs, I think, are a really important part of your business. I've looked at the website and there's a real visual aesthetic there. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. I because, during lockdown, Norway was different to the UK. We were allowed out you weren't allowed to do much else, but you could be out in the fresh air. So I explored perhaps the city more than I would have done. And so, I did start to take in, the beauty of the Opera House, perhaps more than I would have done. And the Holman Column, which is the famous ski slope. And I spent more time in the city just wandering than I would have done. And so then I actually developed a love for the city and a love for the buildings, whereas before it was quite a transient relationship I had with the city. I don't know if you've ever been to Oslo, but it's quite a small city, and it's unusual because some parts of it you think you would be walking around Paris, because the apartments are very sort of Parisian-like, not quite as tall, but in other parts it's very, very modern. But they're only small pockets. It's unusual, and it's quite a flat city as well. So when you do find a beautiful piece of architecture, it stops you in your tracks.
So did you have an interest in architecture before?
No.
Or was it so Oslo really is key to your business, really. It's that's inspired the company.
Absolutely. I think having to be in one place, because, I think as a personality, my brain, nothing about me stays still for very long. And this was almost like an enforced capture. So, and it developed there, that the love for Oslo developed for being forced to stay here.
You've already mentioned gelato and how looking for gifts for family back at home kind of inspired you to look into gelato a bit more. But I wondered if you could explain how you work with gelato and a little bit about how print on demand works as a business concept.
Yeah, absolutely. So I built my website in Squarespace. I find it really easy to use, and it's really cost effective. And so I needed a print-on-demand company that could integrate with the website. So basically, it's a plugin that you add to the website, and all of the technical stuff is really it's taken care of by Gelato. So the orders go straight through to Gelato. I don't really have to worry about anything, to be honest. The only thing that I ever do have difficulty with is the postage, and that's not Gelato's fault. That's Norway. And that's only if clients are buying in Norway. But I mean, I've not had any kind of issue with international customers. Sell quite a lot in America. There's a lot of Norwegians that live in America, which is funnily enough. Gelato is so straightforward, and Gelato they have different product updates. So I started out with just posters, and then sort of branched out to greetings cards as well. And I can create, if we're going to an event. So we have a Christmas market that will be coming up soon. I will, because I don't just sell through the website, I sell at markets throughout the year. And if I want to, to create branded things, that's really easy to do with Gelato as well. So tote bags are really popular. And the interesting thing about Gelato is that if I wanted to create sort of like an annual design, so that it's just updated, I can think, I've done this version of the Opera House, I might do another one, and it's just easy. Within a few days, I've got a new product that I'm able to sell. So it's quite a wide range, and it's growing all of the time. I mean, some of my designs are not really a good fit for some of the products, but the company seems to be bringing out new things all of the time. I think it's quite an exciting time for Gelato because they're based in Norway. And funnily enough, it's just across the road. It's probably less than 5 minutes walk to their HQ. But I don't go knocking on the door saying, "Why haven't you got this?" Or where's
I would quite like to see. But I think the point is with Gelato is that they are, they're in many countries around the world. And so you can run your business from Norway, but customers can shop from anywhere, and your product would sometimes or most times be produced in their country and dispatched to them from their country, so they can get hold of their poster. If you're a bit like me and a bit disorganized, you think, oh, I need a birthday present, and you order something online, but actually it's made in your country in many cases and comes to you because Gelato has partners around the world.
Absolutely. And it's very often, because I think that's what intrigued me to start off with, because I couldn't believe that I could get something so quickly in Norway through the post. So that's when I investigated. So when UK customers or when American customers buy them, the posters or the cards are actually printed in their country and used through their postal service, which I think is really exciting. Not only for the speed of delivery, but I think we're all more conscious of climate change and the fact that this is, the most ecological way that I can think of to deliver something to somebody in a different country.
Yeah, you can become a global business, but still be local to your customers.
Absolutely. And also be able to sort of control your carbon footprint as much as possible.
Yeah, so you've covered a few benefits there. Is there any other benefits that you can think for our listeners about using print on demand as a business format?
Well, I think you need to investigate other print on demand providers, because I didn't just, because of Gelato, I'd had my experience with Gelato, but I did do some more investigations and found that there were others. But for me, especially for the European market, to have Gelato that are, I think they're in about 33 different countries now. The other providers I found were either Canadian based or US based, or even China based, and I just didn't feel as comfortable. I did actually try. I think it was a Canadian company, just to see how long it would take to get tote bags, but because it's Norway, I found that they didn't even want to deliver to Norway. So I just thought, well, if I'm going to be using you as a customer, how you're not going to be able to deliver to my customers if you're not even going to deliver to me as a trade partner. So I think it's important to have a look where your customers are coming from, and then perhaps do your investigation there. Don't just go on what you think is going to be the cheapest price. Because it doesn't really matter how cheap it is. If you've got a poor service, it's going to affect your reputation, and it's going to be. I mean, who's got time for stuff? You need to spend your time running in the business, not dealing with issues that are created by other people.
One of the things that struck me when I was looking at the idea of doing print on demand is that presumably for some people it's a very cheap way to get up and running, because you don't need to buy and hold your own stock. So you don't have to buy your products up front. You don't need to pay for storage space. You mentioned that you set up your own website. So, it seems to me that it's quite a quick and cheap way for people to start a business. Would you say that's fair?
Absolutely. And it's a really good way to sort of pop your toe in the water as well. So with me, I use Squarespace, because I've used Squarespace for years, and I build school websites with it. So it was easy for me to do. There wasn't a learning curve there. It was straightforward. But I know that Gelato, they have plugins for Wix websites as well as WordPress. So I think that's really important. So for me, really, it's the cost of my time to create the designs, the cost of the website, really, and then any promotion. So it is quite cost-effective way to start a business, because, like you said, you don't hold any stock. And for me, because I also go to markets, so then I do order the stock in, and I've got a seller where I've got my posters. But that came after the website.
How do you find the kind of face-to-face interaction with your customers? Has that helped to sort of inform your designs or what products you launch?
Absolutely, it has. And for me, when I came here, I went on a few Norwegian language courses, but to actually stand and be chatting. Well, I use chatting very loosely. For me to be listening and then trying to speak Norwegian, it's been really good for helping me with my language. And, it's really nice to be able to look somebody in the face, and they might not be a customer, but they've always got an opinion. And even it might not be an opinion on your artwork. It might be an opinion on the subject of it. Because one of the most dividing things in this city is the new Munch Museum. And most people that I speak to hate it. and it's just to start that discussion. And actually, I've made friends, being, a foreigner in a foreign land, to be able to sort of make friends. I've been out for coffee with people that I've met that have been potential customers on the market. And it's lovely, and it does inform because they very often will say, "Oh, you haven't got, the Nobel Peace Centre, or you haven't done a design of the town hall." So it's a good discussion point, and it also does give me ideas as to what would sell.
Sounds like a nice balance, because I think there's the misconception that print on demand is only online, but that actually you can order the products yourself and you can still have the offline face-to-face with your customer side of the business too. Absolutely. And I think for me, being, like I say, a foreigner in a foreign land, to get with gelato, the quality is really high. And I think for people to actually understand the difference, they need to order a poster from somebody somewhere, or I'm not sure that you can get samples, but so that you can see the difference. Yeah. Because it is your reputation, and if you're actually selling rubbish or low quality stuff, then it doesn't reflect well on you. And like I said, it's just an additional nose that you might have to deal with that you didn't necessarily need to. Yeah. So get your hands on it. Feel what your customers are going to experience. Yeah, absolutely. You do need to understand that, because it is a premium product. You can probably get cheaper, but the product's going to be cheaper. It's not necessarily just the price that you need to be looking at. I wanted to wind back, because you've talked a little bit about your designs, and I wondered where the designs come from. Do you design your products yourself? Yeah, they're my design. A couple of the designs, the Freya, which is chocolate here, Freya chocolate. There is a famous illuminated clock on top of the old Freya factory in the centre of Oslo, and a friend of mine, Debbie, she designed that for me, and she also designed a version of the Parliament building as well. But the others, they're my designs, and they're quite simple, to be honest. They're not because I wouldn't actually put my hands up and say that I was an artist. But they're quite simple. But I think they're quite striking, because I do like colour. Yeah, I love them. Thank you. That's really kind of you. I love them. I think for listeners, if I was to describe them, there's a kind of vintage, almost kind of 1960s kind of styling to them. And maybe that's partly to do with the buildings that are on the posters that I've seen. But there's a real kind of, I don't know, like modernist style to them. I think they're great. I would urge listeners to just go and check them out, because I think they're great. Thank you. That's really kind of you. I worked in Croydon for quite a long time, and I don't know if you're familiar with the brutalist architecture around there. Maybe that's had some kind of, I don't know, some kind of effect on me. Yeah. That's moving on. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about is, what do you think the keys are to success when you're starting? If someone was just starting out with a print-on-demand business, what are the key lessons that you think they need to bear in mind? Well, I think they need to research first. They need to research who is going to be their provider. And I mean, it's no good sort of building a website. Say you're building a website in WordPress or Wix or even Squarespace, and then picking a provider and they haven't got the plugin. It's not going to work with your website. So I think you need to sort of decide who's going to provide your print on demand, and then have a look at how they can work with
your preferred website.
Yeah.
So you need to start from there. And also when you're doing your research into your provider, you've also got to think about the sorts of things that you want to sell, and have a look, how easy is it? I think it's ease of use, really. With Gelato, they have an app, which is, I have an iPhone, and it's just ideal because it works beautifully on there. Because when I get an order through, I can just approve it on the app. I don't have to think, I'll wait until I get home and I've got to get to a desktop. I like the fact that I can be doing 4 different other things as well as that at the same time.
So making sure that it's usable not just for the customer but for you as well as a business.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're setting up, it's got to do what you want it to do and what you think that your end result is going to be. So I think it's easy of use. I think really if you perhaps see what other people are doing, who are your competitors, who are people that you would like to emulate, and what are they doing and how are they doing it, and perhaps how you would do it differently, and who can facilitate that, whether it's Gelato, whether it's a different company. I think you need to do that. I think you probably need to know what your budget is, because there is some cost involved, even if it's just the cost of your yearly website, which, you'll need a business, it'll need to have commerce.
Yeah.
So that as far as I'm aware, I don't think you can get a free e-commerce website. So there's a few £100 there that you have to consider that you will have to pay, and you can pay that monthly. So think about your costs, think about what you want to deliver, and think about the ease of use for you. Are you going to have to pay somebody else to do this? If you're not able to build a website, are you going to have to pay somebody to do that? And maybe which system is going to be cheaper, if that's a consideration.
Yeah. And have you got any tips for listeners in terms of how you chose your products, or how they should go about choosing what it is that they're going to be selling?
Well, for me, I chose what I liked.
Yeah.
So things that I really would like to see in my home, or that uplifted me, or that I enjoyed looking at. Because normally I think the things that you want to sell are the things that you would like yourself. Because why would you want to sell something that you don't like or you're not interested in?
Yeah.
So, and then I think you need to ask around maybe your friends, family, and go a little bit, further afield. You could quite easily set up maybe an Instagram account, and you can use Facebook to do some kind of market research. So you can, create little polls and ask questions that way.
Yeah.
So you can use social media to get some market research.
Yeah, perfect. That's brilliant. Before I let you go, I wondered if you could tell our listeners where they can find you online, where they can find your website and check out your products.
Well, I'm at Nordhuset. I don't think there is another company called Nordhuset. So I'm on Instagram, I'm on website, and I think that's it, actually. Instagram and the website are the places to get me.
Perfect.
And I will be at various markets, but you will have to come to Oslo to see me.
I will put a trip in my diary.
Fabulous.
Thank you so much for your time. We'll make sure that we share links to all of your socials and to the website in the summary notes that accompany the episode, so that listeners can find you there too. But that's brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today.
Fabulous. I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking to you.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Ruth. Well, that was really interesting. For one, I love Ruth's products and their vintage aesthetic, and I'll definitely be ordering some of her wall art. The other thing that strikes me is how print on demand both inspired and enabled Ruth to start and grow her business very quickly. She was able to build her website, use the Gelato plugin, and start selling products in the middle of a pandemic. So it strikes me that if you're creative and you're thinking of starting your own business, print on demand with a partner like Gelato could allow you to scratch your creative itch and realise your dream. As Ruth explained, there's some definite advantages to be had from print on demand. So if you research your partner thoroughly and create things that you would like and think your target customers would like too, you could try your business idea out at little or no cost and with very little risk. If you want to know more, check out the resources we've pulled together in the accompanying show notes. You can find these at www.startyourownbusinesspodcast.co.uk. You should also take a look at Ruth's website at www.nordhuset.no. As promised, you'll find links to Ruth and her website in the summary notes. If you're enjoying the Start Your Own Business podcast, please spread the word so we can help even more business owners. And finally, another massive thanks to Ruth for her time and insights today. Until next time, all the best.